Welcome to ESL listening practice. Imagine you're back in the Stone Age.
Oh, wow, right into the time travel.
Yeah, exactly. So picture this. You're sitting around a smoky fire, the night is just pitch black, and, the sounds of dangerous predators are echoing in the distance.
That's pretty stressful, honestly.
Very stressful. And in that exact moment, knowing who in your tribe just stole the extra berries or who fell asleep while standing guard, that isn't just juicy news. It is the absolute difference between life and death.
Right. It's crucial information.
Exactly. So today, we're talking about gossip. We are going to explore exactly why human beings are so, completely obsessed with talking about other people.
We really are. It's universal.
It is. And we'll look at this through an evolutionary lens, a psychological lens, and a social lens. And since our goal here is to help you, the listener, master the English language, grasping the nuance behind everyday behaviors like this it's just really crucial.
It absolutely is. It's great to be here with you to talk about this. Gossip is just a fascinating phenomenon.
Yeah, it really is.
We all participate in it, yet we rarely stop to analyze the mechanics of it. When you look closely, it's not just idle chatter. It's a highly complex social instrument.
Right. And as your guides today, we're going to break down an incredible text on this topic. We'll unpack the complex vocabulary right in context.
Our goal is to dive completely into these ideas and to help you absorb the natural, everyday English vocabulary that surrounds this topic.
Definitely. We want you to actively engage with the concepts. As we unpack these words and stories, try to picture how they map onto the interactions you have in your own workplace, or in your own family, or even just on your phone.
So let's start right at the foundation, right? The historical and evolutionary roots.
Yeah, let's go back to the Stone Age.
Yeah.
Because when we hear the word gossip today, the immediate image is usually like two people whispering in a school hallway.
Or maybe a tabloid magazine cover at the grocery store checkout line.
Exactly. It feels very modern, and honestly, it feels a little bit trivial. It doesn't matter. But the argument we're looking at today says gossip is deeply hardwired into human evolution.
It's an ancient habit. In early human societies, our ancestors lived in these incredibly small, tight-knit groups. Out in the unforgiving wilderness, working together was absolutely essential for survival.
Right, they had to cooperate.
Yes, cooperation. And gossip was essentially the tool they used to manage that cooperation. It was how they tracked who could be trusted, who was reliable, and who was, ultimately dangerous to the group.
This is a perfect time to look at some vocabulary for our B2 learners. Let's examine that word evolution.
That's a great one to start with.
Because we often hear evolution used in a strict biological sense.
Right. Like the idea that over millions of years, living organisms adapt and change physically to survive in their environment.
Like monkeys turning into humans or fish growing legs, that kind of thing.
Exactly. But when we talk about the evolution of a behavior like gossip, we're talking about how a specific social habit developed because it provided a distinct survival advantage.
So it wasn't an accident?
Not at all. Gossip didn't just happen randomly. It evolved because groups that talked about each other survived, and groups that stayed silent, they didn't.
Wow. Talk or die.
Basically. And as you mentioned, the text points out that cooperation in these groups was essential.
I think it's really worth pausing on that word essential, because in English we use words like important or helpful all the time.
Yeah, people mix them up.
But essential carries a much heavier weight, doesn't it?
It really does. There's a massive difference between something being important and something being essential.
Right. Like eating your vegetables or getting 8 hours of sleep is important.
But if a thing is essential, you literally cannot continue without it. Oxygen is essential. Water is essential. If you remove it, the whole system just collapses.
So for these early humans, working together wasn't just important, it was essential.
Exactly. And that distinction is vital for understanding the extreme pressure our ancestors faced. In a prehistoric environment, hunting a massive animal wasn't a solo activity.
No, you couldn't just go out and catch a mammoth by yourself.
Right. If one person failed to do their part, everyone could starve or get killed. The cooperation wasn't just like a pleasant workplace culture. It was an essential foundational requirement for just drawing breath the next day.
The stakes were literally life and death.
Because the stakes were that high, early humans desperately needed to identify who was reliable.
Let's define reliable for the listeners.
Sure. A reliable person is someone you can count on consistently. Their future behavior is predictable based on their past actions.
Right, like if they promise to hold the rope, they actually hold the rope.
Yes. If they promise to share the meat, they share the meat.
So if you're going out to gather food, You have to know if the person walking next to you is reliable, or if they're the type of person who's going to panic and run away the second a wolf appears.
Exactly. You need an early warning system. And that is what gossip was.
It was primitive radar.
That's precisely how anthropologists view it. If someone in the tribe noticed a member acting selfishly, stealing resources, or showing cowardice, they couldn't just keep that to themselves.
They had to tell everyone else.
Right. They had to broadcast it. This primitive gossip protected the community from dangerous or lazy individuals who threatened that essential cooperation everyone relied on.
I always try to picture these ancient behaviors in a modern setting to really grasp them. It makes me think of like a university group project.
Oh, that's a perfect comparison.
Have you ever been assigned to a group of 5 students to do a massive presentation, and your entire final grade depends on the group's collective output?
Oh, yeah. It's the worst.
Instantly, your brain goes into survival mode. You look around the table and wonder, who is actually going to do the research? Who is reliable? And who is the freeloader who's going to, ghost the group text, do zero work, and drag everyone's grade down?
Right. You need to know who the weak link is.
Exactly. And the second the professor turns their back, you lean over to a classmate and whisper, hey, have you worked with that guy before? Is he actually going to write his section?
It is the exact same instinct playing out under fluorescent lights.
Yeah. So the environment has shifted from a savanna to a classroom.
But the neurological hardware running the show is identical. We have a desperate psychological need to identify reliable partners in any shared endeavor.
The stakes have lowered from physical death to a failing grade.
But the knee-jerk reaction, that immediate automatic response to gather social intelligence, it remains exactly the same.
So let me ask you this. Was gossip essentially the very first news broadcast? Like before we had CNN or newspapers, was this how the news was delivered?
Without a doubt, gossip was the original daily news. In fact, evolutionary psychologists point to a concept known as Dunbar's number.
Okay, what's that?
It's a theory that suggests human beings only have the cognitive capacity to maintain about 150 stable social relationships.
So my brain can only handle 150 friends.
Basically. In early human history, when tribes started growing larger than a single family unit, approaching that 150-person mark, it became physically impossible to personally observe every single interaction in the camp.
Right, you can't be everywhere at once, you can't watch everyone all the time.
So, language itself likely evolved to fill this gap. It allowed us to trade social information. Did you hear what the hunter across the river did? Do you know who has been lying about their contributions?
Wow. So it was the broadcasting of vital practical data across the network.
Yes, exactly.
That's incredible to think about. Language evolving specifically so we could talk behind each other's backs for the sake of survival.
It's a funny way to phrase it, but yes.
But of course, if we fast forward to today, most of us don't need to hunt for our breakfast, right? We aren't worrying about saber-toothed tigers attacking the office building.
Thankfully, no.
And yet we still live in groups and we still gossip endlessly, which perfectly explains how an ancient survival mechanism shifted its purpose over time.
Yes, it did. We still use it, but not just to avoid death. We use it to build friendships.
Right. So this brings us to the social role of gossip today, which the text we're looking at describes as the glue of friendship.
I love that phrase. While we no longer need to weed out the people who will let us get eaten by bears, we still have a profound psychological need for connection.
We still need people.
Exactly. When we share personal information about a third party, it actually acts as a bonding agent. It creates a powerful sense of belonging and a shared understanding between the speaker and the listener.
Let's really look closely at the language we use for relationships here for our B2 listeners, because bonding is such an evocative word.
It really is. Let's break it down. In a physical sense, a bond is a material thing that ties objects together, like a strong glue, a thick rope, or the chemical force holding atoms together in a molecule.
Right, like superglue creates a strong bond between two pieces of plastic.
Exactly. But when we apply it to human relationships, to bond with someone means to develop a deep emotional connection. You're effectively tying your lives together.
And sharing gossip is one of the primary ways we apply that social glue.
Yes, it is.
I love that image. The words we speak are the invisible ropes tying us to the people we trust. And as that bond forms, it creates a deep sense of belonging. So how do we unpack the word belonging for someone working on the nuances of English?
Well, belonging is more than just being physically present in a room. You can stand in a crowded subway car and not feel any sense of belonging at all.
Right, you just feel like a stranger in a crowd.
A true sense of belonging is a psychological state. It's that warm, secure feeling of being accepted as a natural, valued member of a community. You feel seen, you feel safe, and you feel like you are exactly where you are supposed to be.
That's a beautiful way to describe it. Humans are incredibly fragile when isolated, aren't we?
We really are. We are terrified of being left out. Gossip is a mechanism that confirms our inclusion in the group.
And it does that by creating what we call a shared understanding. Let's explain what that phrase means.
A shared understanding occurs when two people observe the world, or maybe just a specific situation, and realize they interpret it in the exact same way. They share the same moral framework.
Can you give an example of that?
Sure. For example, if you and I are at a dinner party, and we both quietly complain to each other about a guest who is being incredibly arrogant and rude, we are doing more than just complaining.
There we're doing.
We are actively calibrating our values. We are mutually agreeing that arrogance is unacceptable in our circle. Through that shared understanding, we strengthen the borders of our friendship.
This is where the psychology of it gets so fascinating to me. It's all about the feeling of being an insider.
Yes, being on the inside of the circle.
When someone leans in, lowers their voice, and shares a piece of gossip with you, they're giving you a very deliberate signal. They're saying, out of everyone in this room, I trust you enough to share this.
Exactly. In that specific moment, the actual information they are sharing almost doesn't even matter.
Right. The true value is the social connection being minted right then and there.
The medium is the message, as they say. The act of sharing is a social ritual. Think of primates in the wild. A huge part of primate social interaction involves grooming, right?
Like picking bugs and dirt out of each other's fur.
Yes. It's not just about hygiene, it's about physical intimacy and trust. Evolutionary biologists suggest that human gossip is the vocal equivalent of primate grooming.
Oh, wow. That is a wild mental image.
By trading stories, we are smoothing out our social bonds. We're demonstrating trust and bringing someone inside our protective circle.
Whispering a rumor at the water cooler is the modern equivalent of picking bugs out of someone's hair. I love that.
It's strange but true.
I usually compare sharing a secret to handing someone a special shiny key to a locked room. When you hand them that key, it makes them feel incredibly special. They think, wow, I have access. I am allowed inside.
That's a really great analogy for English learners to visualize.
But let me ask you this, and maybe push back a little. Does this bonding process only work if the information is highly secretive or scandalous? Or does just talking about ordinary mundane details create that same exact bond?
The shiny key analogy is excellent, but it does come with a caveat. The key doesn't always have to unlock a vault of dark, scandalous secrets. Gossip, strictly defined in a sociological sense, simply means discussing people who are not present. It's just informal communication about others.
Okay. So what's an example of that?
If you and a coworker are just talking about the fact that your manager looked unusually exhausted this morning, or wondering aloud why Dave from accounting always brings tuna fish for lunch, that is still gossip.
And it still creates that bond, even if it's just about Dave's lunch.
Absolutely. You are still trading those keys of observation. You are building a shared reality step by step, even with very low stakes information.
That makes sense.
It's the steady accumulation of these small shared observations that builds the massive architecture of a friendship. It's less about the explosive secrets and more about the continuous hum of shared attention.
Okay, so we have this ancient survival warning system that smoothly transitioned into the social glue we use for building deep friendships.
Right.
But let's be totally honest with ourselves here. We don't just share stories to build deep, meaningful connections. Sometimes we aren't trying to bond at all.
No, sometimes we really aren't.
Sometimes we simply talk about other people because we love a good show. We want to be entertained.
Yes, human curiosity.
Exactly. And that brings us to a massive point in our discussion today. The role of human curiosity and our absolute obsession with narrative.
It's a fundamental truth about human neurology. We are inherently curious about the lives of others. The human brain is specifically wired to pay attention to stories filled with drama, relationship dynamics, successes, and catastrophic failures.
We just can't look away.
We can't. We prioritize this narrative information over abstract facts every single time. And this deeply ingrained preference is exactly what drives the massive multi-billion-dollar industries of celebrity news, reality television, and social media.
Let's really dig into the vocabulary of how the brain processes this, starting with the difference between abstract facts and drama.
Okay, let's define an abstract fact first.
Great for our B2 learners.
The word abstract describes something that exists primarily as a concept or an idea, stripped of emotional or physical human reality.
So it's not a physical object you can hold.
Right. An abstract fact is usually data. For instance, stating that the Earth's circumference is roughly 40,000 kilometers is an abstract fact.
Okay, or like reciting the exact GDP of a country, or memorizing a math formula.
Exactly. They are objectively true, but they are cold. They don't involve human feelings, motives, or consequences.
Right, if you tell me the capital of a country I've never visited, my brain just files it away in a dusty cabinet and says, okay, noted. But my heart rate doesn't change. My palms don't sweat. I feel absolutely nothing.
Precisely. But drama operates on an entirely different level. In everyday language, drama refers to exciting, emotional, or unexpected events involving human beings.
Drama has stakes.
Yes, a story about a beloved local bakery going bankrupt because of a family feud that is drama. Two massive pop stars having a very public, very messy argument on the internet that's drama.
And the brain reacts differently to that.
Completely differently. The human brain does not just file drama away in a dusty cabinet. It invites it into the living room and offers it a cup of tea.
I love that. I want to focus on the why here. Why does the brain prefer a narrative over a spreadsheet of data?
It all comes down to neurochemistry.
Because if you think about it, trying to memorize a list of vocabulary words in English, which are basically just abstract facts on a page, it can be incredibly difficult. You have to repeat them over and over.
It's exhausting.
But if a friend calls you crying and tells you a highly dramatic story about a terrible romantic breakup, it takes zero effort to remember it.
None at all.
You effortlessly absorb every single detail. You can remember exactly what she said, what he said, who slammed the door, everything. It just sticks. Why is that?
As I said, the reason is deeply rooted in our neurochemistry. When we hear an abstract fact, only the language processing parts of our brain activate to decode the words.
Yes, a tiny part of the brain is working.
Right. But when we hear a story infused with human emotion, a story with characters, conflict, and resolution, our entire brain lights up. We experience empathy. We mentally simulate the events as if we are living them ourselves.
And that releases actual chemicals in the body.
Right. Yes, it does. A compelling story triggers the release of cortisol, which makes us feel tension and focus our attention. As the story develops, we might get a hit of oxytocin, the bonding chemical, which makes us feel empathy for the characters.
And then what happens at the end?
When the drama resolves, whether it's a happy ending or a satisfying tragedy, our brain rewards us with a hit of dopamine. Abstract facts simply do not have the biochemical power to trigger that cocktail of hormones.
Wow. So we are basically addicted to stories.
We really are. This is why human history was passed down through the oral tradition. Storytellers sitting around fires long before anyone ever wrote a history textbook. We are biologically designed to learn through the dramatic experiences of others.
Which perfectly explains why modern technology is so incredibly addictive. Because if you look at social media, it has essentially weaponized this natural human curiosity.
Weaponized is a very strong, accurate term to use here for our learners to note.
Let's explain it. When you weaponize something, you take a neutral object or a natural instinct and engineer it to be used as a powerful, sometimes destructive tool.
Exactly. Social media platforms fully understand that your brain is helpless against human drama. Their entire business model is built on capturing your attention and selling it to advertisers.
Gossip is not a harmless pastime. It possesses an immense power to destroy.
It really does. While it can build bonds between two people, it often does so by completely tearing down a third person.
Right. Gossip has the power to damage trust, ruin reputations, and ignite severe interpersonal conflict. And in our modern era, this is especially catastrophic when the information being spread is entirely false or unverified.
We really need to focus on the vocabulary of consequence here. The phrase ruin a reputation is something we hear constantly in the news, but the mechanics of it are terrifying when you break it down.
Let's examine the concept of reputation for our listeners.
Good. Your reputation is not what you think about yourself. It's the collective opinion that the public holds about you based on your past behavior and character.
It's how the world sees you.
Right. It is the shadow you cast in society. If you spend 20 years acting with integrity, being honest, and helping your community, you build reputation for reliability. People trust you implicitly. Building a strong reputation is an incredibly slow, painstaking process. It takes decades of consistent behavior.
But the terrifying part is that it can be absolutely ruined in a matter of hours. When we talk about doing severe damage, We aren't just talking about a scratch on a car. We're talking about fundamentally altering how society views a person.
Exactly.
If a malicious rumor starts spreading that a beloved teacher is actually stealing money from the school, it doesn't matter if it's true or not. The damage to their reputation begins immediately. People start looking at them differently. Trust evaporates.
And that naturally leads to severe conflict. Conflict in this context means a deep, prolonged friction or breakdown in relations. It can tear a workplace apart, destroy a family unit, or divide a community.
And the conflict is supercharged when the gossip is unverified.
Unverified is a crucial word for navigating the internet age. Let's look at the structure of the word for our B2 learners.
Okay, let's break it down.
The core verb is verify, which means to rigorously check and prove that a piece of information is factually true.
Like a journalist.
Right. If a journalist hears a rumor, it is their job to verify it by finding physical evidence or multiple reliable witnesses before they publish it. When a fact is proven, it becomes verified.
But what happens when we add the prefix?
In English, adding the prefix un flips the meaning entirely. An unverified claim is just an allegation floating in the wind. It has not been fact-checked. It is raw, unproven rumor.
And this is where the speed of modern communication turns unverified gossip into a weapon of mass destruction. I want to really contrast how this worked historically versus how it works today.
That's a great comparison.
Imagine living in a small village 200 years ago. If someone started a completely false, unverified rumor about you, the rumor could only travel as fast as a human being could physically walk or ride a horse.
Very slowly.
Right. The spread of the gossip had natural physical friction. You would move from neighbor to neighbor slowly.
Exactly. And because the spread was slow, there was usually time for the truth to catch up. The community had time to deliberate. Someone might step in and say, wait a minute, I was with him all day yesterday. That rumor cannot possibly be true.
The friction of time allowed for verification.
But today, there is zero friction.
None.
An unverified, completely fabricated post about a person or a local business can be posted on a social media platform. And within 20 minutes, it can be shared, retweeted, and viewed by 3 million people globally.
It's terrifying. The algorithm, as we discussed earlier, loves the drama, so it pushes the lie faster than anything else. A person's 20-year reputation can be annihilated before they even wake up and check their phone. The truth doesn't just fail to catch up, it never even leaves the starting line.
It's a profound shift in human interaction. We have combined the primal evolutionary hunger for scandalous stories with a technological infrastructure that distributes those stories globally at the speed of light with zero requirement for truth.
I always picture spreading a false rumor, like spilling a massive glass of dark, sticky cranberry juice on a beautiful, pristine hardwood floor.
Oh, that's a highly evocative way to picture the asymmetry of gossip.
Right. Knocking the glass over is effortless. It takes exactly 1 second of carelessness. It is just like clicking share on an unverified post. It requires zero energy. But cleaning up that spill, that is an entirely different story.
You have to act fast.
You have to drop to your knees, grab a dozen towels, and scrub frantically. You are desperately trying to soak up the juice before it seeps into the cracks. But the reality is, you can never get it all.
No, it stains.
Some of the juice sinks deep into the grain of the wood. The wood warps. The dark red stain sets permanently. Even if you apologize, even if the truth finally comes out and you clean up the surface, the floor is never, ever the same again. The stain remains forever.
And that permanence is what makes digital gossip so perilous. Once you release unverified information into the social ecosystem, you forfeit all control over it.
You can't take it back.
You cannot unspill the liquid. You cannot unspeak the rumor. It lives in the digital archive permanently. And because the potential for catastrophic damage is so unbelievably high, we cannot just rely on our ancient instincts.
No, we need help. We desperately need a systemic way to control what we allow ourselves to say.
Which is exactly what the final practical section of our topic today provides. We need a system to counteract our own biology. Luckily, communication experts drawing on wisdom that actually dates back to ancient philosophers like Socrates have provided a mental toolkit.
A tool to stop the gossip.
It's a simple mechanism to help us navigate this minefield. It is called the 3-question filter.
The premise is straightforward, but incredibly challenging to execute. To avoid participating in the destructive cycle of rumors, we must be radically intentional with our language.
We have to pause and think.
The experts recommend that before you open your mouth to share a piece of information about an absent third party, you must force that information through 3 distinct checkpoints. You must ask yourself, is it true? Is it necessary? And is it kind?
Let's introduce the concept of a filter to conceptualize how this works in practice for our learners. In the physical world, a filter is a device designed to separate the good from the bad. It allows what you want to pass through while trapping the toxic or unwanted elements.
Think of the process of making coffee. You have hot water and you have bitter, gritty coffee grounds. If you just mix them together and drink it, it'll be an incredibly unpleasant experience.
It'll be awful.
The coffee filter acts as a barrier. It's a porous paper that allows the rich, flavorful liquid to drip into your mug, but it physically traps the harsh, solid grounds, preventing them from ruining your drink.
So, in psychology and communication, a mental filter is a deliberate pause. It is a cognitive roadblock you set up in your own brain. Instead of just letting every thought immediately fall out of your mouth, you force the thought through a set of rules to trap the toxic waste.
So we are pouring our juicy, impulsive urge to gossip through these 3 specific questions. Let's really test this system, because passing all 3 is brutal. Let's run a hypothetical scenario.
Okay, let's construct a common workplace situation.
Imagine a colleague you work with, let's call him Mark, was hoping for a major promotion. But today, the boss calls Mark into the office and completely passes him over, giving the job to someone else. Mark is devastated.
Poor Mark.
You accidentally overhear the conversation. Now, your evolutionary instinct is screaming at you. You have exclusive high-drama information. You desperately want to run to the break room and tell your favorite coworker, but you stop. You apply the filter. Question 1. Is it true?
Well, you heard the conversation with your own ears. It is not an unverified rumor. It is an objective fact that Mark did not get the promotion. So the information successfully passes through the first filter.
Okay, it survives the first test. Now it hits the second barrier. Question 2. Is it necessary? Does the person in the break room absolutely need to know this information right this second?
And this is where almost all gossip gets trapped. The word necessary means something is required to achieve a vital outcome or avoid harm.
Is it required here?
Is it necessary for your coworker to know Mark's private professional failure? No. It does not impact their daily tasks. It does not protect them from a physical threat. Sharing it serves no practical required purpose.
It's just for fun.
The only reason you want to share it is for the thrill of the transaction, the entertainment value. Therefore, it is unnecessary, and the filter should trap it immediately. You should stay silent.
But let's play devil's advocate. Let's pretend someone argues, well, actually, it is necessary. The whole team needs to know who the new manager is going to be, so it affects the company dynamics.
People will always try to find a loophole.
Okay, fine. Let's assume you somehow justify it as necessary.
Yeah.
It still has to pass the final, most brutal checkpoint. Question 3. Is it kind?
And this is the ultimate safeguard. To be kind means to be considerate, compassionate, and protective of another person's feelings and dignity. Is it kind to broadcast Mark's profound disappointment behind his back before he even has a chance to process it himself?
Absolutely not.
It is invasive. It strips him of his agency to share his own news on his own timeline. It is inherently unkind. So the gossip utterly fails the third filter.
It's such a rigorous system. I think of it exactly like an airport security checkpoint. Every single story you want to tell has to show its passport and walk through the scanners. It has to clear all 3 security gates. True, necessary, and kind.
And if it doesn't?
If the metal detector beeps on even one of those gates, the security guard shakes his head and says, nope, sorry. This story is grounded. It is not allowed to fly out of your mouth today. It forces us to interrupt millions of years of evolutionary programming. It asks us to be mindful rather than reactive.
It is the ultimate exercise in cognitive override. We're recognizing that while our ancient biology pushes us to hoard and trade social information to survive the wilderness, our modern civilized society requires us to act with empathy and restraint.
We have to be better than our instincts.
The 3-question filter is the tool that elevates us from reactive animals to responsible citizens.
I completely agree, but I have to ask you a very pragmatic question.
Okay, what is it?
If you, me, and everyone listening truly and honestly applied this rigorous airport security filter to every single sentence we spoke, wouldn't human beings have absolutely nothing left to talk about? Wouldn't our daily conversations become incredibly, unbearably boring?
It is a very fair critique. If we strictly applied the filter, the sheer volume of our daily chatter would plummet. The idle, thoughtless noise would disappear.
We'd just be sitting in silence.
But it would not eliminate conversation entirely. It would simply force a shift in the subject matter. Eleanor Roosevelt famously said, "Great minds discuss ideas, average minds discuss events, small minds discuss people."
I love that quote.
If we stopped using the personal tragedies and dramatic lives of others as our primary source of entertainment, we would be forced to talk about bigger things.
We would have to talk about art, or science, or philosophy, or our own personal dreams and fears, rather than what Dave from accounting did over the weekend.
Exactly. It might feel boring at first because we are withdrawing from the addictive dopamine hits of cheap drama, but ultimately it would dramatically elevate the quality of our relationships.
We'd have real conversations.
We would connect over shared passions and genuine vulnerability rather than bonding over the wreckage of a third party's reputation.
That is a profoundly beautiful way to look at it. We are trading the cheap sugar rush of gossip for the actual solid nutrition of real connection. Well, we have covered an absolutely massive amount of territory today. We have traced the trajectory of gossip from the deep prehistoric past all the way to the blinding speed of the modern internet. Let's take a moment to pull all these threads together and summarize the core insights we've explored.
The fundamental takeaway from our discussion today is that gossip is an incredibly nuanced, deeply embedded human behavior. It defies simple categorization. It is neither entirely virtuous nor entirely villainous.
Complicated.
It is a completely natural, biologically driven aspect of how human beings communicate. It reveals our evolutionary imperative to secure essential cooperation and survive in a dangerous world. It highlights our desperate psychological need to bond with others and carve out a sense of belonging.
And it shows how much we love drama.
It exposes our brain's hardwired curiosity for narrative drama over abstract facts.
And crucially, because we now wield technologies that can ruin a reputation globally in a matter of minutes with unverified rumors, the stakes have never been higher. The spilled juice is harder to clean up than ever before.
It really is.
Therefore, we have an ethical obligation to use our mental filters. We must rigorously ask ourselves if the words we are about to speak are true, if they're genuinely necessary, and if they are fundamentally kind. You have all done a fantastic job diving deep into these concepts with us today. Now, before we end this conversation, I want to leave you with a final lingering thought. I want you to carry this with you into your week.
Something to think about.
The very next time you are sitting across the table from a friend, or perhaps hovering your thumb over your phone screen, and you feel that sudden, undeniable urge to share a really juicy, dramatic story about someone else, just freeze. Pause for 1 single second. And ask yourself, which of your ancient primal human needs are you actually trying to feed right in that moment?
That's a great question to ask.
Are you genuinely trying to build a closer, more meaningful bond with the person you're speaking to? Are you secretly hoping to soothe your own insecurities by comparing your life to someone else's messy failure? Or are you simply bored and desperately looking for a cheap piece of entertainment? The honest answer might completely surprise you.